Paul wrote most of the New Testament, although he never actually saw the pre-resurrected Jesus. In fact, he spent the first few years after Jesus' death and resurrection hunting down Christians and either throwing them in jail or actually killing them. He was even at the scene of the killing of the first Christian martyr, Stephen, who was stoned to death a year after Jesus was crucified. But after a few years of trying to destroy this new Jesus movement, he had a vision. He was converted. Not one to do things halfway, Paul traveled through the known world, converting men and women and founding churches. He wrote letters to 12 churches that he founded all over the Middle East and eventually even to Rome. And he was really the first Christian theologian. He helped the new movement explore themes like resurrection and sin and justification and atonement and the second coming, all of those kinds of things that we now take for granted. Now, this particular passage, though, gives us a glimpse into Paul himself. He's not necessarily lecturing the new church in Rome, but rather he's looking inward, asking, why am I doing what I know is wrong? He says, I have the desire to do what is good, but I can't pull it off. Why? He's got some very 21st century introspection going on here. These are questions that we ask of ourselves today. Today, we ask these a lot. Yesterday morning I went to a bookstore to pick up a book I had ordered. That's good, a noble deed. I bought the book and I was flipping through it as I walked back to my car. And then I noticed I had parked right in front of a donut shop, Happy Donuts. Now, who could resist Happy Donuts? I was drawn into the store, drawn right up to the counter, and I bought a jelly donut. I sat in my car and I ate it. I didn't even drive home to eat it in the privacy of my kitchen table. I can't tell you how good it tasted. I haven't had a jelly donut in ages. But later in the morning, as I was reading over this passage in Romans, I was all jumpy because I had too much sugar in my system. I asked myself, why did I eat that jelly donut? I know it was wrong. I know it was wrong in so many ways. I don't need the calories. My body could no longer tolerate that amount of sugar like it could when I was a teenager. I felt fat and jumpy and irritable the rest of the morning, and I knew I would feel that way before I ate the jelly donut. But I ate it anyway. Now, Paul isn't talking about jelly donuts here. I don't even think they had jelly donuts in those days, but he's talking about good old-fashioned sin. But he was asking the same question. I know I did something wrong, so why did I do it? His answer is, in our 21st century worldview, simple, even simplistic. It's no longer the I who did it, but sin living in me that does it. In short, he's saying, the devil made me do it. Well, we've come a long way in our understanding of how we think and how we act. But the question is still there. Maybe the devil didn't make me go into Happy Donuts and didn't force me to buy that jelly donut and didn't force me to eat it. But I knew it was wrong and I still did it. Now, I know a lot of people who can walk right by Happy Donut and it doesn't even occur to them to buy a jelly donut. But they have other things that pop into their minds that they know are wrong and they still do it. We all do. I mean, you've got things that you know are wrong, but you do it anyway. What we have learned over the many millennia is that introspection is good. It's so easy to blame the devil, or some people can even explain that it was God who made them do something. You know, last week we read about Abraham. If he had gone ahead with sacrificing Isaac, and he got home and sat down with dinner with Sarah, and Sarah said, well, where's Isaac? He could have explained, well, see, Sarah, God told me to kill our son, and so what am I supposed to do? Sarah said, oh, you did what? Well, God told me to do it. Well, that's the way they thought back then. But we don't think that way anymore. And of course, we have people who take the blame for all sorts of things that are going wrong. They take the blame themselves. And then we have people that point the finger at someone else. They did it. They made me do it. But really, we know we're lying. We know we're lying. We know that in the end, it all catches up to us. Maybe not at the pearly gates of heaven when we're being quizzed by St. Peter like the old stories go, but we know deep inside what we did was wrong. And we're not talking about jelly donuts here. The key, I think, is the ability to really look inside and sort out what is my responsibility for what has gone wrong and focus on that. It's so easy to say the devil made me do it, or well, that's just who I am. Or worse, they made me do it, or they did it, not me. Blaming them is really no different from saying the devil made me do it. No, as adults in the 21st century, we are responsible to identify when we have done something wrong, when I have done something wrong, and identify our part of it and taking responsibility. Today, society is beginning to accept that it is rampant with racism, systematic racism. This is all over the news, but it's not new, and we know it's not new. This is just new in the news, perhaps new in our awareness. It's easy to say, well, they are racist. They're stupid. Look at all the hurt they cause because of their racist language or their racist behavior. But saying that is just like saying the devil is a racist. The devil's causing racism, or they're racist. They're stupid. They're causing hurt because of their racist language and racist behavior. But saying that doesn't change anything. It may even make us feel good, but nothing changes. Nothing changes. Paul said, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living within me. But if he had left it at that, nothing would have changed in him or in the world around him. He took that next step. He publicly admitted that he was wrong, that he was one of the tormentors of the early Christian faith, the early Christian church. He accepted that he could not change what he had done, nor could he change who he was, but that only through Christ Jesus could change him. Because as he said, and as he preached, and as he wrote to others, through Christ Jesus, the law of the Spirit who gives life has set you free from the law of sin and death. Certainly the next step for me is to equip my car with duct tape so that when I park in front of Happy Donuts with the good idea to go get a book, but there I am right in front of Happy Donuts. I'll be able to avoid eating a jelly donut because I have taped my mouth shut. But seriously, jelly donuts isn't a societal problem, but racism is. For me, living in the blue bubble of the Bay Area, it's easy to say, look at those stupid racists over there in the red states. Look what they're doing. But again, that's like saying, look what the devil has done. Look what they're doing. It accomplishes nothing except maybe it makes me feel good. Maybe it even makes me feel superior. What I need to do is to look deep inside of me and ask the question, what is my part of the systematic racism that continues to spread across this country? This is as hard as it was for Paul to admit that he was the cause of the anti-Christian crusade in the first century. But he did that. He could have blamed the other Jews. He could have blamed the Romans. He could have blamed Nero. But instead, he looked inside and admitted his part. But still, looking inward, finding my part of what is wrong, doesn't change anything. I need to look inside and find my part, and then I need to do something to change the future of the culture, just as Paul did. He not only admitted that he was the cause of great harm to the early Jesus movement, he set out to spread the gospel throughout the known world. That is what I need to do. I can't change the history of racism in this country. I can't change what other people do. But I can look deep inside of me and see my part, and I can change that part. And that is hard work. But if we all change our little piece, our little part, the big picture will change. Just as Paul, taking responsibility for his piece, began a change in the whole history of Christianity. Paul laid out a tough challenge for us to follow, but then he was following a tough path that Christ laid down for him to follow and for us to follow. Amen.